The text message pierced through the quiet evening at exactly 10 p.m. I was wrapping the final gifts of their housewarming celebration, each package a token of my joy and anticipation. My phone lit up with a message from Paola, my daughter-in-law. "Don't bother coming tomorrow. You're not on the guest list." I read those words once, then twice, a third time, hoping they might somehow rearrange themselves into something less devastating. My heart seemed to fold in on itself, collapsing like a poorly built tower of cards. Just hours earlier, I had authorized a final transfer, $3,000 for the dining room furniture they'd selected. For half a year, I had poured my life savings into that house, funding every brick that was laid, every window that was installed, every careful detail that made a home. Now they were telling me I couldn't even cross the threshold. I stood frozen in my living room, surrounded by carefully wrapped boxes adorned with gold paper and satin ribbons. At 69 years old, I had never felt the weight of my age quite like this. My arthritic fingers trembled as they gripped the phone, reading that soul-crushing message over and over, the one that shattered every dream I'd nurtured as a mother. But this story doesn't conclude there. Far from it. This is a chronicle of how a woman of my generation reclaimed her dignity and taught two opportunists an unforgettable lesson. Respect cannot be purchased with money. It must be earned through actions. And when that respect is lost, the consequences can be absolutely devastating. What they failed to understand was that a mother who has been betrayed possesses a strength more formidable than any adversary. And I held something in my possession that would eventually have them pleading for my forgiveness. Everything began 8 months prior to that terrible night. Liam arrived at my doorstep wearing that bashful smile I'd known since he was a small child. He settled onto the couch where I had consoled him through countless childhood struggles and disappointments. His eyes sparkled with an excitement I hadn't seen in years as he shared his dream of homeownership. "Mom, we've discovered the most perfect house imaginable," he said, his voice trembling with enthusiasm. "We just need some assistance with the down payment. Just this one time. I give you my word that we'll manage everything else on our own." His words had always possessed the power to melt my maternal heart. Liam was my only child, my most precious gift in this world. I had raised him single-handedly after his father walked out on us when the boy was barely 5 years old. For 38 years, it had been just the two of us navigating life's challenges together, him and me against whatever the world threw at us. I had worked exhausting double shifts as a nurse at the local hospital. Every dollar was carefully saved. I denied myself countless small pleasures and luxuries to ensure he had everything he needed to succeed in life. "Of course, sweetheart," I responded without even a moment's hesitation. "Just tell me the amount you need." The days that followed were a whirlwind of hope and mounting excitement. We visited the property together, a stunning 2-story construction with a spacious yard and a 2-car garage. In my mind's eye, I could already see myself preparing elaborate family dinners in that generous kitchen, play with my future grandchildren in that sun-drenched yard. The images filled me with such joy I could hardly contain it. Paula accompanied us that day, radiant in her crimson dress, measuring spaces with tape measure and discussing plans for curtains and interior decorations. She smiled warmly at me and addressed me as Mom in that sweet, honeyed voice that I found utterly charming at the time. "Josephine, this house will be absolutely perfect for starting our family," she said, taking both my hands in hers. "You're going to be the happiest grandmother in the entire world here." Those words filled every corner of my heart with pure, unbridled joy. I felt as though I were floating above the ground. I was finally going to have the large, loving family I had dreamed about for decades. I was finally going to witness my son happy, secure, and properly settled in life. That very same week, I signed the first check, $15,000 for the down payment. It represented half of everything I had saved throughout my entire working life, but I signed it with a genuine smile illuminating my face. "It's an investment in our collective future, Mom," Liam assured me, wrapping his arms around me in a tight embrace. "When we have children, you'll be the most involved grandmother anyone could ask for. This house will overflow with love and laughter." Over the weeks that followed, I became an integral part of the entire process. I woke each morning filled with excitement, immediately checking my phone for updates from Liam about the construction's progress. I visited the building site religiously every Wednesday and Saturday without fail. I loved watching those walls rise from the foundation, walls that would shelter my family for generations to come. I brought ice-cold water for construction workers on hot days and spent hours in detailed conversations with the foreman, Mr. Johnson, discussing every aspect of the build. "Your son is extraordinarily fortunate to have a mother like you," Mr. Johnson would tell me as we reviewed the architectural plans together. "Not every mother makes such an enormous sacrifice for their child." His words filled me with an overwhelming sense of pride. I wasn't merely building a house. I was constructing my family's future, creating the legacy I would leave behind when my time on this earth ended. I made every bank transfer with love in my heart. When they requested funds for the bathroom tiles, I was there. For the aluminum-framed windows, for the polished living room flooring, for the complete electrical installation, I always answered yes without the slightest hesitation. This was my way of demonstrating how profoundly I loved them, how much faith I had in their future together as a married couple. I spent my evenings knitting beautiful tablecloths and embroidering delicate pillowcases for their new home. Every single stitch was a prayer for their happiness, every design a blessing for their prosperity. My own house gradually filled up with gifts I purchased for them week after week. A premium set of cookware, luxurious Egyptian cotton sheets, a large flat-screen television for the main living area. Everything seemed absolutely perfect. Everything was proceeding exactly according to my most beautiful dreams. Until that night, the night of that devastating text message. The first signs of contempt began so subtly that I convinced myself I was imagining things. Paula started to change in her attitude toward me after I paid the second major installment, $20,000 for structural framework. "Oh, Josephine, good, you're here," she would say when I appeared at the construction site. But her smile no longer reached her eyes the way it once had. We were just discussing the finishing touches. "Of course, you don't really understand these modern design concepts, do you?" I swallowed the insulting comment with a forced smile. After all, it seemed natural for a young woman to have different ideas about interior decorating. I simply wanted them to be happy, nothing more. But the humiliations became increasingly frequent and progressively more cruel. One Saturday morning, I arrived with a homemade lunch for all the workers, just as I had done consistently for weeks. Paula greeted me with an openly annoyed expression on her face. "Josephine, we've already ordered catered food for crew. Your homemade cooking might upset their stomachs. It would be better if you didn't bother bringing anything anymore." The construction workers looked at me with obvious pity as I packed away my containers filled with the beef stew and seasoned rice I had been preparing since 5 o'clock that morning. I felt my cheeks burning hot with shame. "All right, dear," I murmured softly. "I only wanted to help." "You already help plenty with the money," Paula answered with a laugh that sounded like shattering glass. "That's what we actually need you for." Liam was standing right there within earshot. He witnessed the entire humiliating exchange, and he didn't speak a single word in my defense. My own son allowed me to be degraded by that woman, without lifting a finger to protect me. That night, I cried until I had no tears remaining. Things deteriorated further when they decided to host a dinner party to show their friends the construction progress. I discovered this gathering purely by chance when I overheard Liam talking on the phone. "Yeah, it's going to be incredible. Paula's cooking for everyone. It's going to be an absolutely perfect evening. Can I attend?" I asked him with the hopeful voice of a small child. Liam looked at me as though I had said something completely absurd. "Mom, it's an intimate gathering just for young people in our social circle. You wouldn't feel comfortable there." "But it's the house I'm financing," I whispered, feeling my voice beginning to break. "That's exactly why we don't want you to feel obligated to come. It's better if you rest at home." I spent that evening alone, watching from my kitchen window as the lights of their future house blazed brightly, filled with music and laughter. From my solitary position, I could hear the distant echo of the celebration I had financed but to which I didn't belong. The following day, I visited them with a tray of fresh homemade pastries, hoping to hear stories about the party. Paula answered the door still in her pajamas, looking severely hungover and obviously annoyed. Oh, Josephine, you're here so early. We're absolutely exhausted from last night. How did everything go? I asked, attempting to sound casual and unaffected. Perfect. Everyone was completely fascinated with our house. She paused deliberately. Well, with my house, she corrected herself with a venomous smile. After all, I was the one who selected every single detail. You know, the color schemes, the finishing touches, absolutely everything. I have exceptionally good taste in decoration. Every word was a sharp stab directly to my heart. The house she so casually called hers had been paid for with my entire life savings. Of course, dear, you have excellent taste. I managed to reply, Oh, and yesterday I met my friend Danielle's mother. Such a remarkably elegant lady. So polished and refined. Nothing like... She trailed off meaningfully. Well, you understand what I mean. One must maintain certain appearances, correct? The message was crystal clear. I was not sophisticated enough for her social standards. I, who had worked like an animal for 40 years to provide my son with a proper education, was not refined enough for her privileged social circle. That afternoon, driving back to my empty house, I felt something I had never experienced in my entire life. Genuine hatred. A burning hatred for my own daughter-in-law. A hatred that seared through my chest and made me grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turned completely white. The breaking point arrived on Liam's birthday. I had meticulously planned an intimate family dinner at my house, exactly as we had celebrated for 38 consecutive years. I purchased his favorite cake from the bakery he loved, decorated the living room with colorful balloons, and prepared his favorite meal from childhood. Liam arrived an hour late with Paola, clinging to his arm like an elegant parasite. Mom, everything looks nice, he said distractedly, constantly checking his phone throughout the evening. During dinner, Paola couldn't stop talking about the elaborate plans for her house, the sophisticated parties they were going to host, the exclusive social life they were going to cultivate. I sat at my own table feeling completely invisible. Oh, Liam, remember that my parents are visiting tomorrow to tour the house. They need to see how well I'm married, Paula said, winking at him conspiratorially. Your parents are coming? I asked innocently. Of course. They're going to be part of the family. They're educated, cultured people. They'll know how to properly appreciate what we've achieved. And when might I see the finished house? I asked, my heart lodged in my throat. Paula and Liam exchanged a significant look. One I couldn't interpret at the time, but understand perfectly now. Mom, we'll let you know when it's ready, Liam answered evasively. But it's nearly complete, isn't it? I've invested $85,000 so far. Exactly, Paula said with a smile that made my blood run ice cold. You've been an excellent, how should I phrase this, silent investor. The word silent echoed through my head like a funeral bell tolling. That was when I finally understood my designated place in all of this. Pay the bills and keep quiet. Finance their dreams and then disappear. That night after they departed, I sat alone in my living room staring at the photographs of baby Liam displayed on the coffee table. When exactly had I lost my son? When had I stopped mattering to him? But the worst betrayal was yet to come. The true breaking point arrived in the cruelest manner imaginable at what should have been the happiest moment of my life. It was a Friday evening when I received a phone call that would alter everything forever. Liam sounded strangely nervous on the line, reminiscent of when he was a child who had broken something valuable. Mom, I need to ask you for one final favor, he began in that voice I knew so intimately well. The house is nearly ready, but we're $5,000 short for final finishing touches. My heart leaped with joy. I was finally going to see my house. Well, their house, but the one I had constructed with such tremendous love and sacrifice. Of course, sweetheart. When is the housewarming party? What should I bring? Should I prepare that chili you love so much? There was an uncomfortably long silence on the other end of the line. Too long. Mom, about that. Paula wants the housewarming to be something very intimate. Just the two of us. I felt as though I had been struck with brutal force in the stomach. What do you mean, just the two of you, Liam? I paid for that entire house. I built it brick by brick with my life savings. I know, Mom, and we appreciate it tremendously. But Paula says she wants our first day in the house to be magical, just for the two of us as a couple. You know how women can be about these romantic occasions. Tears began streaming down my face. I couldn't control them any longer. I can't even see it. I can't even see where my $90,000 went. Of course you can, Mom. Just later, once we're properly settled in. Give us a week. I hung up the phone feeling as though my soul had been crushed to dust, but I still clung to a fragile thread of hope. 1 week. I could endure waiting 1 more week. That night, I transferred the final $5,000 through my banking app. I watched numbly as my savings account became virtually empty. $95,000. My entire life, distilled into a single electronic transfer to 2 ungrateful people. A week passed without contact. Then 2 weeks. By the 3rd weekend, I couldn't endure it any longer. I drove to the address I had memorized like my own birth date. And there it stood, beautiful, immaculate, with a manicured yard that looked professionally landscaped. My house. The house I had financed but had never once stepped inside. I rang the doorbell with trembling hands. Paula opened the door dressed like royalty in her own castle, wearing an emerald green dress that probably cost more than my monthly expenses. "Oh, Josephine, what an unexpected surprise," she said, deliberately blocking the entrance with her body. "We didn't know you were coming." "I wanted to see the house," I said in a voice barely above a whisper. "It's been ready for 3 weeks now." "Oh, yes. It's just that we've been extraordinarily busy getting everything properly arranged. The house is still an absolute disaster." Over her shoulder, I could clearly see the perfectly decorated living room with furniture I had purchased, everything gleaming like a designer showroom. "It looks absolutely beautiful, Paula. Can I please come in just for a moment?" Her face transformed completely. The mask of sweetness fell away like peeling paint. "Honestly, Josephine, now is not a good time. We have important guests arriving shortly." "Important guests?" "Yes, Liam's corporate superiors. It's an extremely important business dinner for his career advancement. You understand, we can't have any interruptions." The word interruptions pierced through me like a spear. I was an interruption in the house I had paid for. "I just want to see the house for 5 minutes." "Another day, Josephine, when we don't have social commitments." And she closed the door directly in my face. I stood there on the lawn I had financed, staring through the windows I had purchased, as Paula systematically closed every curtain so I couldn't see inside. I returned to my car, physically shaking with rage and profound humiliation. But the worst revelation was still to come. That night from my house, I could see the party lights blazing, the expensive cars arriving one after another, the laughter drifting through the air all the way to my window. At 11 o'clock that night, my curiosity overwhelmed my remaining dignity. I drove back and parked on the corner like some kind of criminal, spying on my own house from a distance. Through the illuminated windows, I watched Paula greeting guests like the consummate hostess. I saw Liam making an elaborate toast with champagne and glasses I had purchased. I witnessed everyone admiring the decoration and the finishing touches that had consumed my life savings. And then I overheard something that shattered my soul completely in half. A group of men stood in the yard smoking cigars, and their voices carried clearly through the night air all the way to my car. "Liam, brother, congratulations. This house is absolutely incredible. How did you manage to afford it so young?" "Well, I had some family help," my son answered with an uncomfortable laugh. "Did your father help you out?" "No, my dad passed away years ago. It was my mom who helped." "You're incredibly lucky. My mother would never give me a single dime." And then I heard Paula's voice, clear as crystal bells. "Oh, please don't call it luck. Liam deserved this. Besides, his mom, she has nothing else to spend her money on anyway. She lives alone. She has no social life whatsoever. Why should she hoard all that money?" The laughter that followed felt like knives being driven repeatedly into my chest. "It's absolutely true," Paula continued. "Old people just hoard money to feel important and needed. At least this way, we gave those savings a genuine purpose." I felt something fundamental break inside me. Not my heart, because that was already shattered. Something deeper, something more essential to who I was. My faith in unconditional love evaporated. My belief in family dissolved. My trust that being a devoted mother held any value in this world crumbled to nothing. There, sitting alone in my aging car, watching them celebrate a house I had built through my sacrifices, I made the most important decision of my entire life. I was finished being the foolish old woman who gave money away to feel loved. It was time for Paula and Liam to meet the real Josephine. That morning, I couldn't sleep a single minute. I remained awake in my kitchen with a cold cup of tea clutched in my hands, feeling every cruel word Paula had spoken replay in my mind like a broken record stuck on the worst song imaginable. Old people just hoard money to feel important. She has nothing else to spend her money on. She has no social life. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I made a decision that would transform my life forever. I dressed in my best clothes, fixed my hair carefully, and drove directly to the bank. "Good morning, Mrs. Josephine." Victor, my account manager for many years, greeted me warmly. "How are you today?" "Good morning, Victor. I need to review every single transfer I've made over the past 8 months to my son Liam's account." His expression became serious when he recognized the steely determination in my eyes. "Of course, ma'am. Let me print the complete transaction history for you." When I saw those papers in my hands, when I held the physical evidence of my generosity, I felt a mixture of pride and nausea I had never experienced before. 163 individual transfers. From the initial $15,000 down payment to the final $5,000 from a week ago. A grand total of $95,000. "Victor," I said with a calmness that surprised even myself, "I need you to help me with something very important." That same afternoon, while Liam and Paula were undoubtedly sleeping off their party hangover, I was executing my carefully planned strategy. First, I called the furniture store where they had purchased the dining set. "Good morning. This is Josephine. I'm the woman who paid for the 8-chair dining set on Liam's account. I need to cancel that payment immediately and have the furniture picked up." "Ma'am, but it was already delivered 2 weeks ago." "I'm aware of that, but the payment came from my account without my proper authorization. I have the legal right to cancel it." The manager's voice became noticeably nervous. "Ma'am, we would need to speak with your son to confirm this request." "My son didn't pay a single penny for that furniture. The money came from my bank account. I have all the receipts right here in front of me. Are you going to pick up the furniture, or do I need to call my lawyer within the hour?" Within an hour, I received confirmation. The dining set would be retrieved the following day. Next, I called the appliance supplier. "Yes, I want to cancel the purchase of the washing machine, dryer, and refrigerator that I paid for on Liam's account." The same conversation unfolded, the same nervousness from the supplier, the same successful result. By 6 o'clock that evening, I had canceled 17 major purchases. Furniture, appliances, the air conditioning system, even the large flat-screen television they had used for their party the previous night. But that was merely the beginning. The second day of my silent revenge proved even more satisfying. I called the main contractor, Mr. Johnson, the man who had always treated me with genuine respect. "Mr. Johnson, this is Josephine, Liam's mother." "Mrs. Josephine, how are you? Is everything satisfactory with the house?" "Mr. Johnson, I need to ask you something extremely important. The payments for construction, which account did they originate from?" "Well, from yours, ma'am. You've paid for absolutely everything since day one. Your son only signed the legal papers, but the money has always come directly from your account. Do you have copies of all the receipts where my name appears as the person making the payment?" "Of course, ma'am. That's standard documentation procedure." "Mr. Johnson, I need you to do me the biggest favor of my life." That afternoon, Mr. Johnson arrived at my house, carrying a large box filled with documents, invoices, receipts, contracts, everything bearing my name and my signature as the sole person financially responsible for the payments. "Mrs. Josephine," he said with genuine concern, "is everything all right? Has something happened with your son?" For the first time in days, I smiled genuinely. "Mr. Johnson, Everything is going to be more than all right. I just need one final favor from you. The third day, I decided to take direct action. I drove to the house at 10 o'clock in the morning when I knew Liam would be at his office. Paula opened the door in her pajamas, wearing that now familiar annoyed expression. "Oh, Josephine, you're here again. What do you want now?" "Good morning, Paula. I'm here to discuss something of vital importance with you. Does Liam need more money?" The question dripped with condescension. Her assumption made me laugh, a bitter, hollow laugh that came from the depths of my wounded soul. "No, dear. Quite the contrary. I'm here to discuss all the money I've already given you." Her expression transformed immediately. For the first time since I'd met her, I witnessed a flash of genuine fear in her eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you do. I'm talking about the $95,000 that came out of my bank account to pay for this house." "Well, yes, you helped us tremendously. We appreciate it very much." "You appreciate me? You appreciate me by banning me from the house I paid for? You appreciate me by telling your friends I'm an old woman with no social life who has nothing better to spend her money on?" The color drained completely from her face, as if she had seen a ghost. I never said that." "Paula, dear, there's something you need to learn about women of my generation. We know how to listen carefully, and we know how to remember every single word spoken about us." I stepped closer to her with the calm demeanor of someone holding all the winning cards. "But don't worry. I came here to solve your problem." "What problem?" "The problem of having to deal with an old woman with no social life like myself." I removed a large envelope filled with documents from my purse. "Here are copies of all the receipts, all the transfers, all the proof that I paid for this house." I extracted another envelope. "And here you have the legal documentation my lawyer prepared yesterday." Her hands trembled visibly as she accepted the papers. "What is this?" "It's quite simple, Paula. As you said yourself, old people hoard money to feel important. Well, it turns out I want to feel important by reclaiming every single cent I invested in this house." "That's impossible. The house is already in Liam's name." "Oh, dear, you apparently don't know how to read legal documents properly. The house is in Liam's name, yes, but with an enormous mortgage that he will never be able to pay on his current salary. And it turns out I have all the documentation proving I was the one who paid for everything." I watched her read through the documents, her eyes growing progressively wider with terror. "What do you want from us?" "I want to be repaid. Everything with interest." "We don't have that kind of money." "I know that perfectly well. That's precisely why I'm going to give you two options." I sat down on her sofa as if it were my own house, because legally it still was. "First option," I said, making myself comfortable on the couch I had purchased. "You return the $95,000 to me within 30 days, and we forget this entire unfortunate situation." Paula remained silent, mentally calculating. She knew perfectly well it was impossible. "Second option," I continued with a smile that could freeze blood. "I exercise my legal rights as the primary creditor of this property." "What does that mean?" "It means, my dear Paula, that I am going to initiate foreclosure proceedings on the house." She collapsed onto the armchair, as though her legs had been cut out from under her. "That can't be legal." "You know what's not legal, dear? Taking money from a person under false pretenses. That's called family fraud, and it's a very serious crime." I took out my phone and dialed a number I had prepared in advance. "Mr. Johnson?" "Yes, it's Josephine. I've already spoken with Mrs. Paula. You can proceed with what we discussed." I ended the call and watched Paula stare at me with sheer terror in her eyes. "Proceed with what?" "Oh, didn't I mention? Mr. Johnson is arriving in 1 hour with his team to disconnect the basic utilities, electricity, water, gas. Everything is registered in my name. Did you know that?" It was a bluff, but she had no way of knowing that. "You can't do this to us." "Can I, Paula? Let me explain something you clearly don't understand. When an older person invests their entire life savings into something, they don't do it so two ungrateful young people can exploit their kindness." I stood up and walked slowly around the living room, deliberately touching every piece of furniture, every decoration. See this television? $5,000 from my account. This dining table? $3,500 of my hard-earned dollars. These elegant paintings? $1,200 that came from my savings. Paula began crying, but I had moved far beyond compassion. Please, Josephine, we can fix the situation. Let me talk to Liam. What for? So he can send me another text message saying I'm not invited to my own house. I took out my phone again and showed her the screen. You know what I did last night, Paula? I hired a private investigator. Her crying intensified dramatically. What for? To investigate all the properties and bank accounts that you and my son have. It turns out Liam has a savings account containing $28,000 that he never mentioned to me. It was another bluff, but it worked perfectly. Furthermore, it turns out you have a new car that cost $15,000. Where did that money come from, Paula? That car, my father gave me that car. How strange. Because according to my investigator, the car is being paid for on credit from Liam's bank account. In other words, with money I gave him for the house. Paula turned as white as paper. That's not true. Do you want us to call the bank right now to confirm? Just then, we heard Liam's car pull into the driveway. We heard his footsteps approaching the door. Perfect, I said, standing up. Now we can clarify everything as a family. Liam walked in whistling cheerfully, happy as could be, until he saw the two of us in the living room with expressions like we were attending a funeral. What's going on here? Ask your wife, I answered coldly. Paula ran to him, crying hysterically. Liam, your mother has lost her mind. She says she's going to take the house from us. She's threatening foreclosure. Mom, what's happening? For the first time in 8 months, I looked my son directly in the eyes without the filter of unconditional maternal love. I looked at him for what he truly was, a grown man who betrayed his mother. What's happening, Liam, is that I'm tired of being the foolish old woman who pays for everything and doesn't even deserve an invitation to her own house. Mom, you misunderstood. Wait, what exactly did I misunderstand? Did I misunderstand when your wife told your friends I'm an old woman with no social life? Did I misunderstand when you closed the door in my face last Saturday? Liam looked at Paula with reproach and confusion. You told her that? No. Well, not exactly like that. Paula, what exactly did you say? Liam, it doesn't matter what I said. What matters is that your mother has lost her mind and wants to take our house. Our house. I repeated the word like it was poison. Paula, this house isn't yours. This house is mine. I paid for every brick, every window, every nail in this structure. But, Mom, you gave it to us. I gave you a $95,000 house? When? Exactly when did I give you such a generous gift, Liam? Well, you didn't explicitly say it was a gift, but... Exactly. I didn't say it was a gift. I said I was going to help you because I thought you wanted me in your lives. But it turns out you only wanted my money. I removed all the documents from my bag and placed them on the dining table I had paid for. Here are all the receipts, all the bank transfers, all the proof. $95,000 that came from my account to finance your luxury lifestyle. Liam picked up the papers with trembling hands. Mom, we'll pay you back everything, but we need time. Time? Liam, I've waited 8 months for you to treat me with a minimum of respect. How much time did you give me to see this house? 0. We can fix it, Mom. We'll invite you to dinner tomorrow. You can come over whenever you want. Oh, now I can come over? Now that you know I have the legal power to take everything from you? Paula was still crying on the sofa, but I didn't feel a shred of compassion for her anymore. Liam, I'm going to be very clear with you. You have exactly 30 days to repay me everything you owe me with interest. How much would that be with interest? $110,000. Mom, that's impossible. It was also impossible for me to save $95,000 working as a nurse, but I did it out of love for you. Now you're going to have to do it out of survival. I walked to the door, but before leaving, I turned around one final time. Oh, and Paula, tomorrow they're coming to pick up the dining set, the washing machine, the dryer, and the television. Since I paid for them, I get to decide what happens to them. You can't do that. Of course I can, and I will. I walked out of that house feeling more powerful than I had in years. But the real war was only just beginning. The following days were the most intense of my entire life. I woke up every morning with an energy I hadn't felt in decades, as if I had recovered a part of myself I thought was lost forever. The first blow landed exactly as I had promised. At 8 o'clock the next morning, the furniture store trucks arrived to retrieve the dining set. From my car parked strategically on the corner, I watched Paula run out in her pajamas to stop them. Wait, there must be some mistake.